Hello, hello, Edson Oliveira here. This is the 5th DNN Summit 2019 talk, and this is the last one. But we have a bunch of good people around to be talking about, and actually combined here, we have 10 sessions to talk about. So we have a lot to cover within our 50 minutes to in our time frame. Let me start with Cassidi Peterson. Is it Patterson or Peterson? I always...
Peterson, yeah,
Peterson.
you did
Okay.
good.
Okay, awesome. So, Cassidi, if you can introduce yourself, and as a segue, tell us what's your role within the DNN Summit, and give us a bit of an update there.
All right. So I'm Cassidi Peterson, and I'm the founder of 10 Pound Gorilla. We've been with DNN since version 1, so been around the community a few times. And I'm also the vice president of the DNN Association, and we put on DNN Summit. And also, I guess, the city host, because DNN Summit's in Denver, and we're based out of Denver, Colorado. So my responsibility in regards to DNN Summit is the hotel, the location, kind of the general operation on site there, and then also in charge of DNN on the slopes. I welcome everyone to visit me in my official hometown, Winter Park, Colorado, home to a fantastic ski area and snowmobiling and tubing and après. And I know a few of you have been before, and it is a great time. So I encourage everybody to join us for that. Yeah, this year, kind of similar to the previous years if you've attended, but we have added some additional training opportunities, which are fantastic, a little bit more diversity there. And then we're going still with our 2-day conference schedule. So kind of 3 days packed full of DNN information.
3 years in a row that you pull this in your hometown. I mean,
crazy.
Why 3 years in a row?
So last year we did ask, if anybody was interested, we asked for proposals to potentially transfer DNN Summit. And we didn't get, we had interest, but we didn't get any formal proposals. And so right now, a lot of the initial work when we put on the original DNN Summit 3 years ago was just the negotiations with the hotel, figuring out the budget, exactly how much was food going to cost, how much were the rooms going to cost, all of those kind of technical details. So as an association and committee, we really wanted to focus on the quality of the event and making sure that we're enhancing that each year and not focus on just moving it to a different location, then getting caught up in those technical aspects again. So, I believe we'll probably be pitching that out and looking for proposals again. But so I guess by default, we're back in Denver, which I don't mind. It's a great place, and I think people really have enjoyed the DNN on the slopes and the location. So it just allows us, again, to focus on the quality of the conference and adding more value there each year and not worrying about the venue itself.
Got it. Just before we got started here, there was a bit of a conversation on potential other locations for a future summit, but let's not go there at this point in time. Let me ask you about your sessions. And by the way, I'll be asking some questions to all of you guys, but if you hear something interesting and you want to ask a question, by all means, just interrupt me and ask away, okay? So, 2 sessions. Marketing outside the box is the first one. What is a box?
I think everybody kind of knows outside the box, that little cliche term. But I think especially now that digital marketing has been around long enough, there's starting to be a box that exists. And I think people have traditional venues, even in the real world and digital space, that they go for their marketing strategies. And I believe a lot of agencies follow that kind of cookie cutter approach. And so if you have a company named 10 Pound Gorilla, you probably don't think mainstream as much as other people do. So we found a lot of success in thinking outside of the box and implementing marketing strategies that you can't read about on Google or out of a book. So really kind of digging into, what that looks like and how we reach some of those ideas. And then also hopefully turning this in a little bit more into a workshop. So I really want people to come and tell me what their business does, what their struggles are, how their marketing's working or not working, and be able to throw some out of the box ideas and challenge their thought process in terms of how they're executing their marketing.
So I get it. I mean, I asked the question just to poke a little bit, but how do you come across ideas, concepts, strategies that are not mainstream? I mean, are you testing things? Are you just say, hey, this is a good client for us to test X, Y, and Z? How does those ideas they come to fruition?
So for us, the ideas come to fruition from actual data. So we look at analytics and data a lot. Both from a traditional, if you think like digital space, so your website traffic or things like that, but also a customer base, doing some surveys, things like that. So we actually have data to make information. And then I say we really absorb ourselves into the client space. So I always tell our potentially new clients that we can be their best advocate, because we know nothing about their business when we start our relationship. But very quickly, we know everything about their business. So because about a month ago, we knew nothing about their business, we can play their potential new audience, right? And say, how are you going to talk to me? But now we understand everything about their business, so we can figure out how to kind of connect those dots. And then through those data points, figure out what do either existing clients want and need, and how do we connect with those people, and then how do potential clients, what do they want and need. And so I really consider it kind of like a full body immersion into becoming their customer, and then ideas just naturally come. And I would say, there's not, it's definitely more of an organic process. And then as we execute those ideas, we're really tracking them with data and fine tuning and tweaking them to make sure that they work. So, and I can, examples of some. So we work with the Colorado Cross Country Ski Association. And we've implemented a couple out of the box programs that really have boosted their complete awareness. So one is a season punch pass. So the alpine industry has season passes that you can buy to resorts, and you can ski there all season, and Nordic resorts do as well. But we wanted a pass that allowed you to travel around to different Nordic resorts. So we concepted this punch pass. So you get 2 punches at each Nordic resort, and we sell that at an early bird price of $99. So it's very affordable. So it gets people out traveling around, experience different Nordic areas in there. So it's a product that people want and desire, but also has great marketing benefit for the entire association in terms of creating awareness of all the different Nordic opportunities. And then also in that space, we started this year a rookie roundup. So trying to find any newbie and offering them a series of events that are free lessons, free tours, at these Nordic events, because if we can get new people introduced in a hands-on way to the industry, they're going to enjoy that. So I guess, we kind of combine the idea of marketing, event planning, promotions, and then back that up with a full circle marketing strategy where you go back to the inbox elements, such as social media and newsletters and print ads. But now we have something really to advertise, not just, hey, come Nordic ski.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And again, you jump ahead of, I was ready to ask for an example, but you gave me an example already. That's great. I'll come back to you in a second. Let me jump to Mr. Wise, Lee Wise. An intro, please.
An intro, okay. My name is Lee Wise. I'm a front-end developer. I've been doing front-end development since '99, but I always joke that I didn't get good till probably about 2015. The web was a lot different back then. So I do front-end development. I've been using DNN since 2010, so 7-8 years now. I'm I work remotely here in Houston, Texas.
We're gonna talk about that in a second.
Yes.
So you know Cassidi very well. I mean, part of your journey has been, I guess working with Cassidy's organization as well. Anyway, just a side comment here. Nothing to ask about that. Okay, so work from home or living at work.
Yes.
Why do you think that's relevant to the DNN audience that you're gonna meet at DNN Summit?
So yeah, when the few years that I've been going there, that does come up a lot. Some people are there and they're looking for work. Some people are there and they're looking for new hires. But because we're all coming from different parts of the country, that's kind of a big issue. Some people don't want to relocate. Some companies are looking for remote because they get a bigger pool. Maybe they're in an isolated city and it's really hard to find good talent or enough of it. So I think it's very relevant, especially for a conference that pulls people from all over the country or all over the world, really.
Mm-hmm. Actually, let's do a quick poll here. Who here from the guests work from home? Every single. So Cassidy, you guys don't you don't have an office that everybody goes there. I mean, I thought that you may have.
No, we have some like shared workspaces that some people go into on our team, but we're very virtual. I mean, we're in Pennsylvania, Illinois, Minnesota, Idaho.
Got it.
So yeah, our team's kind of dispersed everywhere. So we're pretty much a virtual team.
So Lee, you have the perfect audience here, for your talk. But let me dig a little bit deeper there.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge of working from home, either running your own business or being employed by an organization? What's the biggest challenge there?
I think it depends on personality. Some people have a really hard time when they're at home, not getting distracted, with the chores or their kids or whatever's going on. Some people can shut that off just fine, and their problem is stopping work. Like they're always working because it's always there. Some people don't get that social interaction. Or some people neglect their health because you just sit at home. You don't ever go outside. You don't do anything. You get off work, then you start taking care of the house and the family, and then go to sleep, get up, go back to work, but you're just isolated. So yeah, I think these are a lot of big problems, but they might be different for different people.
I don't like to ask a yes/no question, but I'm going to ask a yes/no question, and I expect you to unpack on that. But do you think that working from home is not for everybody? Maybe?
I'd say it's not for everybody, but I think it could be. I think some people it might require more work. Some people, I think they roll right into it. It's no problem. That's what they want, it's what they're looking for. Maybe some people are just so accustomed to the way it's always been, physically going into a place that they do need to learn how to work remotely. So I don't think it's for everyone, but I think it's probably for most people if it's available and if they want it.
Got it.
Again, Anderson, I might jump in there because I somewhat disagree with Lee. I think I would give it a 50-50 in terms of if it's for you or not for you. And I think in some instances, people get distracted when they're at home. They have a hard time sitting and focusing. And it's like, oh, I can do the laundry. I can, whatever, the repairman can come over. And I mean, those are conveniences. But if you don't structure those, they can really interrupt your day and decrease your productivity. And then I think there's really social people that just being isolated at home and only interacting virtually becomes challenging for them. So I think, you have to kind of look at that now. From my perspective, and I always joke because I've been interviewed by different magazines and whatnot, and they say, well, tell us about your social life or whatever. And I'm like, well, I have internet friends. And they find that very amusing. And I'm like, no, really, I have internet friends and we're really good friends. And I'm fine with that. And I feel very social amongst my clients and connections in the DNN community, but that's not for everybody. And so I do think it's something that you really have to ask yourself, are you okay being kind of solely responsible for yourself and your environment and being somewhat socially isolated and having to, seek out that social interaction.
Yeah, I think you have a point. I think that it can be, and again, I'm going to put my 2 cents here because I've been doing this for over 12 years. I think it can be for everyone, but the thing is that people are not ready and they don't know what to expect, So again, if someone is supposed to start working from home, somehow they need to be alerted by about certain things, and even in a way trained to think in a certain way. Anyway, I'm gonna keep this.
You mind if I just poke at that just real quick for a second? If you think about it a different way, for over the 10,000 years of recorded human history that we have, the vast majority of that time, everybody worked from home or from a very close proximity to home. It's really only the last 150 to 200 years that changed. We became a society where you go to work. So I think that, although there's some significant adjustments that we have to make culturally and socially, I think that overall, we're already hardwired that way. We are not really hardwired to leave our families and make work a separate thing. Work has been for thousands of years something that's a part of our family life and what we do. So I think that once we make those cultural adjustments, we'll be able to do just fine. I'm done.
And I could go on and on here. Actually, your line of thinking, Jeff, I had that line of thinking as well. But again, there are so many interesting things to talk about that, and we can have a full conversation just about that I need to get moving here. Lee, I'm going to go back to you in a second. Let me jump to Jeff. Let me go to you, Jeff. With always the deep thinking, always the deeper perspective that I like and enjoy and I expect now, So be mindful about your answers here.
All righty.
2 sessions, one about e-commerce, another one about the best website. That's an interesting topic as well. So let's talk about websites,
Okay.
Tell me some general website best practice. I know.
You know what? I'm gonna hijack your question.
Okay, go ahead.
So here's the deal. I found, and I will reveal at DNN Summit, the best, most successful website in the history of the internet, and I'm going to reveal it. And probably everybody else who's all around me here is going to be mad with it. They're not going to like it, and they're going to disagree. And I'll spend the rest of my session convincing you that you're wrong and I'm right.
Jeff, you seem to be very good at title bait. Title bait. That's a big title bait. But that's a good one. That's a good one. So again, you're gonna reveal the best website ever.
Right. So let me take everybody off a little bit in advance because I want you all to be a little bit pre-mad at me before you arrive. It'll make the session much more fun.
Should we close our eyes or anything like that? I mean, should I?
No. This is really easy. UX and UI are not your primary concern. Function is not your primary concern. Design is not your primary concern. There is a foundation underneath all of that most people forget. And I've seen beautifully designed websites with photos and animations and social connections and collecting data. All those things, all those tools are tactics to achieve something else. And that is the root of it all. So what that means is, and what we'll have to accept is that a lot of this connection we've made with front-end development and back-end development and linking it into data and connecting it to social media and putting in user-derived content, all of it, a lot of it can be wasted because we're caught up in a gimmick. We're caught up in what we want to do, not what the website needs to do. We're going to focus on that.
Jeff, and so from what I gather from you, you are creating a cult going to Puerto Rico. Is that next year?
Yeah, we're moving to Puerto Rico next year.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, I'll follow your calls. Okay. Can I?
2,000 feet from the best beach in Puerto Rico. That'll be me. I'll have next time we do this, instead of coffee, it'll be a mojito.
Can I be a virtual member of your cult, or do I
You
need to be
can,
there?
you can, but you have to wash my car and you have to wear a robe. It's a requirement.
Good. You'll see me like that in our next DNN Summit talks. Okay. Okay. Great. So I don't even know how to segue here. You blow my mind so big time that let's see here. Let's see. I'm gonna ask for e-commerce. E-commerce. You're talking about 5 mistakes of e-commerce.
Right.
I'm not gonna ask all 5 of them, but you have to lift the curtain a little bit and just give us one.
Okay. Let me give you a little bit of a preface on that. A big part of my job over the last 2 years has become doing what I call website teardowns. People have come and they say, Jeff, the site's not working. Why? Jeff, I got traffic coming in and the site looks great. Everybody loves the site and people compliment the site, but I'm not getting conversions. What's wrong? So I do what these detailed website teardowns, come with a fresh set of eyes. And I noticed a few things. First of all, no designer, no marketing communications guy, no behavioral analysis guy like I am, nobody can fix a bad product, a bad offering, or bad customer service. We can't fix it if the products and services aren't good. But we can take and establish some best practices that take and get things a little bit easier done. And I'll give you a classic example. I'll give you one of the 5. Classic risk reversal. How many sites out there they spend so much time selling the product, selling the service, pitching the price, but they don't address the customer sitting there asking himself, can I trust this business? What's going to happen? What happens if something goes wrong? Am I going to be screwed by this business, especially when they're brand new? And so one of the most common things I do is I outline for people the risk, how their website is telling people that this is risky and how to fix it and get those risks out of the customer's mind. That's one.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a very good one. I'm going to keep moving here. Andrew, you're going to talk a little bit about hardcore module development. So we have a good mix here. We have some design, we have some coding, we have some marketing. We have a perfect company here. We can,
Let's make a site.
Andrew, for hardcore developers like yourself, the first question I usually like to ask is, which is a good segue for one of your talks there. You have 3 talks. What is your module development recipe?
There is no one recipe. It depends on what I'm trying to solve. Now, when I'm developing modules, I like working in the MVC module pattern because I have a lot of experience in ASP.NET MVC, but that's not always necessarily the best solution. Maybe the best solution is going with a SPA module in Angular. Maybe the best solution is setting up a .NET Core backend that's not in DNN and having my module communicate with that, because maybe all of my data is not in DNN. So I'm not a big fan of the one recipe to solve all of them, because there's a different solution for everything. And you got to analyze what problem you're trying to solve and what items in my toolbox I can use to solve that. It's going to not only work for development, it's going to work for the customer when I hand it off.
Makes perfect sense. It depends is a good answer in general. Now, within that tool set that you mentioned there, MVC, SPA, do you work with a predefined template to get the project going? Like, and I'm going to just give an example, like the one from Matt I cannot get his last name. The generator DNN guy.
Yeah, so, DNN.
DNN, yes.
Yeah, I love using that. That's my favorite DNN module scaffolder, and I've done several pull requests back to the project. When I want to say it was right after Summit last year, there were some issues with the MVC template, so I was helping them get that working. And as I've found issues through different modules I've developed, I've given back to that project. And I really like using it because it's very very simple. It's bare bones. There's a lot of features available in module development, and it doesn't have all of them pre-installed. So it's just, if you want to get up and running, you want to keep your code simple and clean, I recommend going with that one. There are other templates out there that have every bell and whistle already set up, so you can kind of see how it works. But if you want to stay simple, I like using Matt's Yo DNN generator.
You also be talking about Azure DevOps with DNN, and you mentioned on your description that that Azure DevOps is a replacement. You give the impression, I don't know if this is correct or not, but it's a replacement to Visual Studio Team Services. Is that correct? Is it a replacement?
I wouldn't call it a replacement. I would call it a rebranding.
Okay.
So Team Foundation Server, Visual Studio Online, Visual Studio Team Services, they're all the same thing. They've been rebranded over the years. Now the latest rebranding is Azure DevOps.
But my question is, if you call that all that package there, that bundle there, as Azure something, I would assume that you have to be using Azure heavily. What if I'm not using Azure?
So it's just a rebranding of the technology. So you don't need to have an Azure account to use Azure DevOps. It's just a name.
Got it.
And everyone that was using Visual Studio Team Services, they've been migrated to Azure DevOps. I know Microsoft has been trying to get everything under the Azure brand, and that's where they make a lot of their money. That set aside, it's still the exact same thing as Visual. It is Visual Studio Team Services. Maybe they call it Azure because it's hosted on Azure, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to have an Azure account.
Got it. Awesome.
Microsoft is kicking butt right now. They're doing an exceptional job, and I don't know. Another topic. We'll have a whiskey in Denver. We'll have a whiskey, and we'll talk about what a great job Microsoft is doing from a branding, marketing, and perspective. Because Amazon's scared, Google is scared, Apple is even scared about what Microsoft is doing.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll hold you to that whiskey or beer.
Okay,
fair enough.
So let's keep going around. I want to check with Mr. Lee Hinman. Lee, can you hear us? Can we hear you? That's really the question.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Can you hear me?
Awesome, I can. I'm very glad that we were able to reconnect. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah. My name is Lee Hinman, the CEO of eMarketplaces LLC. I have a patented CPQ standing for Configured Price Quote. It's a module that adds on to the DNN store. There are 42.5 million websites out there that have a free quote, custom quote, free estimate, and all of these people need this service. So they don't necessarily, through the module, there's a wizard. They can define the questions that they need to have. They can define rules on the answers that are allowed, and it can compute the price. So when you're dealing with a service or a custom product, something that's not off the shelf, and you have to have answers before you can give a price. This is a solution for that. And it's also integrated, and the patent covers a marketplace. So the prospect can go to a marketplace, answer those questions once electronically, and sends it to company A, B, and C. Without human intervention, it calculates the price and sends it back to the prospect within seconds. So
perfect. Okay, so to be honest, I've never heard the term CPQ, configure price quote. I mean, that's new to me. That's a new concept. So I want to explore that a little bit more. Can you give us an example of something that you'd buy online that would ask those additional questions, so that can click a little bit better, at least for me, you know?
Right. Windows, roofs, signs. In other words, when you're ordering a banner sign, how big do I want it? What colors do I want? What words do I want on it? So there's unlimited number of things. Home Advisor starts a little bit in that they ask questions, but then they only give a range of what goes on there. CPQ is an outgrowth of manufacturing configurators. And I have done configurators with other ERP packages. And the CPQ is probably out there in the Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, but there's a lot of small companies that need this service also.
Got it. So are we talking about an e-commerce piece together with that goes together with CPQ, or CPQ stands on its own?
Well, okay. Typically, you need to have companies, when you spend more than X dollars, you need to have multiple quotes. Okay. So e-commerce really doesn't have quotes. Okay. But I do have quotes. But also, if it is an order, they can specify that. So from a true e-commerce, I'm not taking money, and I feel that money is outside of the thing, but the main goal is to get the answers, eliminate me having to go to a site and do the measurements, and being able to come up with that price and reduce the overhead for those vendors that are providing that.
Got it. So at the end of the day, it's all about giving the right price, not necessarily to charge or to fulfill, but give the right price, given that these were the questions, those were the answers. This is the final pricing. Is that right, roughly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Good. And so, actually, I'll come back to you in a bit. Let me go all the way back now. Okay, this next segment that I'm going to go around again, it's about asking for stories. Because we know that DNN Summit is way more, and I'm going to put the just word there, but it's way more than just sessions. It's really about connections. It's about people, getting to know people face to face. Yes, we all work from our different locations. Yes, we are all friends remotely, but if we have the opportunity to see each other face to face and have that extra, human touch there, it's also nice. So I want to go around and ask each one of you if, based on your past experiences with DNN Summit or any other DNN event, DNN Con, DNN Connect, whatever it is, but an event that was around DNN, and I want to hear the awkward stories, the emotional stories, the funny stories. I guess that's funny stories are the majority of them. And again, when we talk about DNN Summit, what is the first thing that comes to mind, But again, I want a story. I don't want you to say that, yes, it's great because we see people. No, I know that it's great, but I want to hear stories. Let me start with you, Cassidi, that had a little smile there. What is a story that comes to mind, from after organizing 3 DNN Summits?
So, Addison, I'd have to say that there's like a lot of stories that would have to fall under that saying of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. There's a lot of stories that say what happened at DNN Summit or DNN Con stay at that. So there's several really good ones, and people can, I'll throw Lee a bit under the bus and say, go probe him for his best story. Make sure he's had a few drinks before he tells you. But so keeping it all clean and not throwing anyone really under the bus. My favorite story was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they did go-kart racing for the speakers. And so the speaker sponsor dinner was, we had, and Clint's gonna be mad at me because I'll say it all wrong, but I think Bojangles chicken. And then we had the sweet tea, and I don't like sweet tea. I like my tea unsweet. So, and I don't really like fried chicken, and Clint was so excited about his fried chicken and sweet tea. But anyways, so then we went and did this go-kart racing, and I had never done that before, but it was myself and then all other male entity, so I didn't have any other female companions. So we had a practice round, and I think I came in like third to last, so at least it wasn't last. It was good. But I'm very competitive, so that wasn't going to cut it. So then it was, I think, like our qualifying round. And so I did improve. I got like 6th or something. And then, so I was seated back, I don't know, 5 positions in the final race. And I told everyone, I said, no, I'm going to win this, and yeah, no one believed me. So anyways, right out of the gate, I passed everybody, and I was right behind Will Stroll the entire time. And Will had apparently made go-kart racing a favorite pastime of his own. So he was very good. And I just couldn't get past him. And he kept turning around, making faces at me. And he thought it was so funny because he's like, you're never going to get me. And sweet justice, because around the last corner, he turned around to make another funny face, and he spun out 3 or 4 spins. And I just went by him like this. And yeah, so I am the go-kart champion. I just want everyone to know that. So that's one of my favorite times. But I highly recommend. I mean, our community is a very tight-knit, fun community. And if you haven't found yourself immersed in it yet, don't be shy, because, there's plenty of friendly people out there. And if you see any of us on the screen right now, I know we'd all be glad to welcome you in. And so I hope you create some of your own fantastic stories.
Awesome. That was a great one. I'm going to jump to Lee. Lee, you have been there for a little while. Any stories?
Lee or the other Lee?
Lee Wise. Sorry, I'm looking at you. Expect that you know that I'm looking at you. How silly I am. Lee Wise.
Yeah. So like Cassidi said, I do have a good story. I don't think it's too bad, but I'm not willing to have it be on the record. So if you want to hear it, come hit me up when we're actually in Denver. I'm happy to tell it. It's really funny. I remember the first DNN event I went to. I think it was DNN World, but it's the same thing. And I didn't know anyone, and so I was with Cassidi. She had brought me, and so she told me just go talk to people, and then left. So I literally would go up to some people and say, hey, my boss said I have to talk to people. How are you? And it was super awkward. But now it's great. Like, I can't wait to get there. Sometimes I'll see some other people when I get in the airport or on the bus, going from the airport to the place, and we're just all so excited. So with that, I got a story that I can share. I think it was last year's. No, it was the year before that. I don't really plan too well. I kind of breeze through and take things easy and don't worry. And so I was staying in a room with Ben Schmidt. He was there. It was the last night, and we're up real late. Of course, we close out the bar. We stay till 2:00 in the morning, and then we go back into like the lobby, and we keep hanging out. A big group of us. And then Ben's like, hey, don't you have a flight tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, but it's not till later. He's like, what time? I was like, I don't know, sometime like after 10 or 11. I was like, I'm not going to worry about it. We're fine. We get back to the room at 4 a.m. And I'm like, all right, I should check when my flight is. And it's at 8 a.m. So I was like, oh, so I get to sleep for like 30 minutes. And then I had to start packing up and catch a bus and get to the airport. So I was a zombie the whole day, but I was like, it was worth it.
And you can always sleep at home,
Yes.
That's a good one. Thank you, Lee. Jeff, how about you?
Real quick first, let me make a note to myself. Tell Clint that Cassidi called his favorite chicken Bojangles.
Bojangles. What is it?
There you go. All right, yeah, Bojangles. That's correct.
I know. I told you, Clint would be really upset. Big deal.
I've been to. I think Cassidi may have the record on this group, a number of events attended. I would be far below her on number of events, but I've been to about a dozen DNN events over the years, and the only one when everybody asks a question about what do you remember most, this one is still a scar burned upon my brain. It was an event. It was DNN World. I believe it was in Orlando, Florida. And we were doing a big promotion. We just opened a data center presence in Australia, and we were promoting it heavily. It was a big deal for us. And so we were promoting it. We had all the advertising materials and stuff like that. And to get excitement, we gave away a nice prize. We gave away a free 1 day's rental of a Lamborghini Gallardo. And the winner had a choice between the car rental for the day or $1,000 cash. And I was literally walking around with $1,000 of cash in a briefcase. I felt like, Jake Blues walking around like this. So the prize times give away. So we're promoting this and we're going to give the prize away. I get up on stage and then we're giving the prize away. And I have all this, on my iPad, I have a random number generator to choose the winner of this prize. And we literally had 795 entries. I'm sure there were a few sandbagging people in there entering multiple times under multiple email addresses, but I didn't care. We were doing great. And everybody seemed to love our new data center in Australia. And it was all great. And I hit the random number generator and it pulls up one of two people at the event out of 800, one of two that was from Australia. And to this day, nobody believes that I chose it at random. To this day, people say, oh yeah, that was pretty slick. That little thing you pulled with the prize. No, really, it wasn't. Yeah, sure it was, Jeff. It was genius. No, it was a total accident.
Great story, Jeff. Great story. Andrew, I don't know if you have been to events before. Have you?
I went to Summit last year.
Oh, you went to some.
See his shirt, Addison?
Someone could have mailed him. Anyway, yeah, I don't know where was I? I was drunk or anyway. Andrew.
And just to plug, Andrew's helping a lot with this year's summit too. He's building an app, so I don't know.
I've heard that he's interested in doing way more than that, But anyway, let's leave it for another time.
It's news to me.
Your story, Andrew.
My story. I don't have any really good stories that I could share. But what I will say, so last year was my first DNN summit, and I ended up there because Ryan Moore found me on Twitter and said, hey, we need you to come do a SoFri talk for their user group. And then he asked me if I was going to DNN Summit. And I was like, no, I'm not going. At the time, I'll be honest, at the time, I didn't care to go cross country. I live in New York. I was like, I don't want to fly across country to go to Summit. I was about a month away from getting married at the time, or 2 months. No, those were the summer. So I was a few months away from getting married. So I got married in November, and summer was in February. And I was like, I just can't go. And then I forgot exactly what happened, but then my wife and I were talking about it. I was like, let's go. We'll make a snowboarding trip out of it. We love going to the mountain. And then I was talking with Ryan again, and he told me he put me in touch with Mitch and said, hey, we need some speakers. Oh, I forgot a part of that story. Clint was talking to me in DNN Digest. That's what it was. So it was so long ago. I don't even remember this stuff. Clint was talking to me for a DNN Digest interview for a new developer that was on the DNN scene. And then after the interview, he said, hey, we need some speakers. You should really come to Summit. And then I was talking with Mitch Sellers, and he's like, yeah, we'll have you fill in. We had some people drop out. And then the next thing I knew, I was out in Summit. And the point of my story, because I'm really bad at storytelling, my wife reminds me of this constantly. When I got out there, I knew nobody, but I didn't have a boss telling me go talk to people. So I was that awkward introvert extrovert developer. I think it took me an hour of sitting at the bar before I started talking to Jeff the first night, and then the different happy hours. I was really that awkward person, like, hey, I'm new here. Once you got me started talking, I wouldn't shut up.
Now I remember you. No, I'm joking.
I was really happy with how welcoming the community is. And I've worked in software long enough where we still see a lot of elitists and egos, and it was really nice at DNN Summit to not see that. Everyone wanted to talk to different people. Remember, Will Stroll came up to me during the round table and introduced myself. I was like, "You're Andrew, right?" I was like, yeah. I know who you are. You're important. Like, no, I'm not.
Will Stroll, talk about ego, man. Talk about ego there, Anyway, let's keep going here. Lee Hinman, I don't know if you have been to any DNN events in the past, but again, I'll let you talk about that.
Okay. I prepared for you prompted us to do this. This will be my first attendance of presenting at a DNN event, but I have presented at Boston for the IMTS, Cincinnati for the ASM. I'm a pioneer with a few arrows, with the first microcomputer store in South Florida back in 1977 and sold PCs to IBM before they entered. I've been using DNN since 2007. I've developed previously around the iBuy Spy e-commerce in the past.
Awesome.
No funny story.
That's great. So again, welcome to your first DNN Summit, and I hope that that's the first one of many to come. Guys, okay. I could keep talking about all your sessions. There are lots of sessions here, but I really want to get to our one thing from each session, and I'm gonna jump around here and try to cover all the 10 sessions here on our last segment. So I'm gonna start again with Cassidi. Cassidi, marketing outside the box. What is the one thing that you want people to get out of that session?
I want them to get out of their heads and just, kind of take things from an upside down approach and start helping your marketing be more successful.
Lee Wise, you can do all that just with the theme?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of show people that there's a lot more to what you can do from the front end side with DNN than just throwing in the skin objects and add some styles. But there are some other little bits that you can do to help development, debugging, and some more advanced stuff that you can do that's somewhere in between front end and back end. It's not really back end, but you can do a little bit of extra stuff beyond just the standard theming things that you see in tutorials.
Awesome. Jeff, the top 5 e-commerce marketing mistakes and how to fix them. One thing.
One thing? Don't forget that there's a customer.
Good one. Andrew, DNN and mobile apps, how to synchronize your content.
One thing is, there's too many things with that. And people attend that session want them to get out that you want to write your content in a way that can be read by both web and mobile.
Perfect. Lee Hinman, marketing reaching new business focused and DNN Extension CPQcart Development. What is the one thing that you want people to take away from that session?
A value proposition of customers out there that have a need that has been unfulfilled in the past, whether they don't have to necessarily have a DNN site. We can couple it to it, sell it as a software as a service thing, and make those 42.5 million customers out there happy.
Awesome. Cassidi again. Put life into your website. Let us optimize your user experience, UX. One thing.
The one takeaway?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Yeah. Just really thinking about your website more from a functionality perspective and not just something that looks good, and getting the user to take the action you want them to take.
Lee Wise, work from home or living at work?
Just some of the common pitfalls and how to overcome them and how to effectively work from home and enjoy it and get the most out of it.
Love that session. Jeff, I found the best website in the world, and it's not mine or yours.
It's not mine, no. The core idea, the big idea that I want you to come away from, websites have nothing to do with technology, code, or design.
So basically, Jeff is saying that what we do, guys, it's not important at all. But that's okay. That's okay.
You
No
don't waste
mistake.
your money.
No offense taken.
Y'all better. I'm expecting all of you to come to the presentation.
And be offended by. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, not offended, just a little bit angry, a little bit miffed.
Well, and I would say if you haven't been to Summit or you haven't been one of Jeff's sessions, it's kind of like a must-do thing on your bucket list. So for sure, check at least one.
Thank you. Thanks, Cassidy.
Very true, very true. Andrew, let's go with the last two ones from you. DNN MVC module development. One thing there.
You can write your DNN MVC module just like you can in an ASP.NET MVC website with just a few minor changes.
And last but not least, Azure, DevOps, and DNN.
The one thing that I want everyone to take away from that is there is no right or wrong way to do DevOps. As long as it works for you, it's going to work.
Andrew, I'm waiting for you for your TUDG presentation, okay? This coming new year, around March. Okay, you not escape from you, okay?
I'm not doing it in January anymore.
Well, we have to talk about that. Let's not sidetrack here, but I'll follow up with you. Anyway, guys, that's great. Thank you very much. I would like, before we wrap things up, anybody has anything else to add so we can go in peace for your holidays?
The only thing I have to add is get your lodging booked because our group discount rate ends I think like the third week in January. So and we only have so many blocks. So if you haven't booked that, book it. And if you're on the fence, listen to Andrew's story there and get off the fence and get into Denver because you're gonna enjoy it.
Perfect. Again, guys, thank you all very much, guys and ladies too. Thank you all very much for taking the time of your busy holiday season. Today is supposed to be the busiest day, I guess, ever, shopping time wise. And again, thank you very much for being here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, have a great DNN Summit, and I hope that next year will be great for each and every one of you guys. Thank you very much. Bye.